Look at all this killer friendly language, breaking up the line of sight and separating some of these safer loops. Chasing a survivor around these walls of cars can also waste a lot of time if they start the chase with a significant lead. Having easy access to quick and plentiful heals can cause problems, particularly for high skilled survivors who can evade the killer for quite some time. An emergency med kit alone can heal the damage done after a long chase in roughly 10 seconds. This doesn't even begin to factor in all sorts of perks and add ons, which can speed up healing even further. This is so killer friendly. It's so killer friendly. You know, I have a request as a survivor main. What can we do for the DC process? If one of our teammates DCs and it's two against the killer or three against the killer, even or four against the killer, and we still have all the generators that need to be done, we're at a severe disadvantage. We're incentivized to DC ourselves or just to sacrifice ourselves. What can be done there for survivors? Manic update to DVD recently. This is what you need to know. This update is coming with the Tools of Torment mid chapter after the Skull Merchant's recent release. And here are the key highlights. We'll go through them all. Blood web improvements. This is something that we've seen across Twitter as something that's needed in the community for those who are playing on PC and who've been in the game for a long time. They have millions of blood points. They don't have the time to spend them, so they don't spend them. And now they're introducing the auto chain. There will be two features to this. One where you click the center of the blood web and it will choose the path that is the least expensive to complete the entire blood web. And then the other one is where you choose a node on the outer layer. You click on that and it will select everything in that node. Now, this feature will only be available to you once you have prestiged to level 1. This is in a process to help people who are unfamiliar with the blood web know what's in the blood web, what does what, and in the categories of the blood web. So in this image here, you see this would be the one where you can do the auto blood web and select the cheapest route to leveling up to the next blood web level. And the next update is coming from the mobile application. If you play DVD mobile, this is already available. And what it is a visual terror radius. So instead of listening to the killer's terror radius and your heartbeat increase as they get closer, now your heartbeat will change in color. And they've outlined it here below. And this will be what we can expect. And this is something you can toggle on and off. So if this isn't your preference, you don't have to use it. There might be a slight advantage to survivors here in the fact that if you're in a situation where the generator is loud or there's background noise that's loud, you might have a slight advantage on what you're able to perceive and how quickly you're able to react. And next we have map updates. I'm not too familiar on these. I'm not too worried about them. Map updates are good quality of life updates to old maps, make the game feel new and offer new opportunities. So if we look quickly with Blood Lodge, Blood Lodge can be a bit of a mixed bag depending on how the map generates. There can be plenty of safe pallets near the center or very few, creating either a very safe area or a dead zone. This area also has very few line of sight blockers, which can make it difficult for stealthy killers to sneak up on survivors. Around the edge of the map, on the other hand, features several maze tiles, high walls with a pallet and or window. Clever survivors can combine these tiles to create stronger loops, making them very difficult to catch. To remedy this, we are making significant layout changes to the map. The Blood Lodge itself will now appear closer to the center of the map, breaking up line of sight and separating some of these safer loops. The maze tiles have also been separated from one another, making it more difficult to combine them together. So this is interesting. Listen to this. Clever survivors can combine these tiles to create stronger loops, making them very difficult to catch. A lot of the language I hear in this update is geared to the killer's perspective. I don't hear anything talking about what's difficult for survivors, how survivors are having a tough time. And one thing I would love to see in DVD is let's update the DC process. Let's change how that is affecting survivors, because when your survivors DC and you still have 5 generators to go, it's impossible to win. So you then might as well DC, or you then might as well just auto sacrifice yourself. There's no what is it, aid, benefit to survivors in this circumstance. Gas Haven features unique car piles which stretch several tiles long. These special tiles can get in the way of gameplay, however, making it difficult to traverse the map. Chasing a survivor around these walls of cars can also waste a lot of time if they start the chase with a significant lead. Chasing a survivor around these walls of cars can also waste a lot of time if they start the chase with a significant lead. More language towards the killer's perspective. Going forward, these car piles will be broken up into smaller single tile chunks. These car piles will also feature potential spawn locations for pallets, helping reduce the potential for dead zones to appear. Okay, helping reduce the potential for dead zones to appear. We have to be just for both sides. That's language towards survivors. The gas haven gas station itself has also been moved to the center of the map, since this makes this building much easier to get to from anywhere on the map. We've reviewed its spawning rules to prevent strong combinations of windows from spawning and adjusted its pallet spawn locations. Throughout the realm, some of these changes will spill over into remaining auto haven records maps, including new edge tiles, small tiles, blah, blah, blah. Healing, this is huge. So I've already gone through this in my shorts video, and I have a quick highlight there if you guys want to check this out instead of the long form content. And the healing, really the main thing here is that they're switching healing to be in favor of the killers. And the main change is here. First healing will now take 24 seconds by default, previously 16 seconds, making each hit more impactful. And all med kits will now have 24 charges by default, whereas previously, as you increase in rarity, your med kit was able to hold more charges, with the most rare med kit allowing for two complete heals from its base charge. And so that will no longer be a thing that exists. And they said, lastly, we have done a pass on medkit add-ons, bringing those which were overperforming in line with the rest. Add-ons which add more charges to your medkit have also been reviewed with the new healing time in mind, though it is now impossible for a medkit to fully heal a survivor more than twice in a match. So they've made it where you cannot heal yourself more than twice in a match from one medkit, which is interesting. And we'll see what exactly the passes they've done on the medkit add-ons to see how those changes come. These perk updates, let's start with Gearhead. These are killer perks, so I'm going to go through them quickly. First up, Gearhead currently reveals the aura of the next survivor to hit a great skill check after a survivor loses a health state. These conditions require quite a bit of work and luck on the killer's part to get value out of it. Gearhead will receive a slight rework when a survivor loses a health state. Gearhead activates for 30 seconds. While active, any survivor who hits a good skill check will have their aura revealed to the killer for 6, 7, and 8 seconds. So instead of great, we go to good. And once they hit it, this allows Gearhead to potentially provide information multiple times for each hook. This is interesting. That reminds me of the survivor perk Fog Master, Vittorio, his perk, however that's called. Overzealous, let's jump into Overzealous grants repair speed bonus when cleansing a totem and a larger bonus when cleansing a hex totem. Little did we know the skirmishes this would cause between the boon lovers out there. Moving forward, Overzealous will also activate when blessing a totem in addition to cleansing. We've also slightly increased the bonus to okay. Okay, so now we've increased the repairing bonus. They've increased the repair speed bonus for cleansing and hex totems and cleansing regular totems. Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. This perk has gradually found its way back into the meta. To address this, we have given Scourge Hook Pain Resonance a slight rework. The perk starts with 4 tokens. The first time each survivor is hooked on a Scourge Hook, the generator with the most progress will explode and lose progress. We've also reduced the difference between different tiers of the perk, now 11, 13, and 15%. So every time a survivor is hooked on a Scourge Hook, the generator with the most progress will explode and lose progress. And I believe the rated reduction is 11, 13, and 15%, 11 being your common and 15 being your most rare. Dead hard, the infamous dead hard. What have they done to dead hard again? So it's slightly come back into being one of the most prominent survivor perks. Dead hard already requires some precision to use, and further reducing the invulnerability window would make it far too unreliable and frustrating. Therefore, Dead Hard has also received a slight rework. Dead Hard will activate after safely unhooking a survivor. Now it has a activation condition as opposed to not to being injured and not exhausted, or just injured and not exhausted, I believe. When activated, press the active ability button while injured and running to gain the endurance status effect for half a second, then become exhausted. Dead Hard will deactivate when it successfully protects the user from damage. So now we've put a cap onto how many times Dead Hard can be used. There's a specific cap as to before, theoretically, there was no cap as to how many times Dead Hard could be used in the trial. This will put a damper on how often Dead Hard can be used, as they say here, keeping it as a powerful reward for survivors who've owned it. That's BS. That's BS language right there. Powerful reward. What they have done is given this incentive to survivors to unhook their teammates. And when you're playing solo queue, this can be a really tough situation. So we'll see. Call of Brine quickly rose in popularity from all the meta shakeup last year. Getting to tone down its power, we have reduced the additional regression speed to okay. So Call of Brine Overcharge, similar to Call of Brine Overcharge, saw a rise in power over the past year. This perk also increases the regression rate of generators pretty substantially. To bring it in line with other perks, we reduced the maximum regression speed to 130%, was 200%, to make it take longer for the regression rate to become beneficial. So at the same time, we've increased the starting regression speed to 85% to help offset this. Additionally, the penalty for missing the special skill check has been reduced to 2, 3, and 4%. All right, that from the looks of it, this sounds slightly fair for both sides. Boon Circle of Healing. This is a huge rework. This perk has become the jack of all trades of healing perks. Not only does it allow you and your fellow survivors to heal without a med kit, but it also increases the speed of healing across the board. Going forward, Boon Circle of Healing will no longer allow survivors to heal without a med kit. Instead, it will provide a 40, 45, and 50% healing speed bonus to healing others. This bonus will not apply to healing done with a med kit. Additionally, the auras of injured survivors with the boon's rank will be revealed to all other survivors. Wow. Let's go back to healing, because I did hear someone say that healing means you can no longer heal yourself without a med kit. Keeping survivors injured. First, healing will now take 24 seconds. We have balanced. Let's make each hit more. All med kits now have different random med kits. Lastly, we have done a pass on med kit add-ons. Are having easy access to quick and plentiful heals can cause problems, particularly for high-skilled survivors who can evade the killer for quite some time. As an emergency med kit alone can heal the damage done after a chase in roughly 10 seconds. This doesn't mean even further. First killers, this means that any chase that doesn't end with the hook, keeping survivors injured and switching targets. No, you can still heal with self-care. I remember somebody said you couldn't heal with self-care. So Boon Circle of Healing was huge. Killer updates. Billy, start your chainsaws and don't worry about them overheating. We've adjusted the Hillbilly's overheat mechanic to be more forgiving. The amount of heat generated from both starting to rev and continuing to rev your chainsaw has been dramatically reduced, making the overheat mechanic almost a non-factor when used in loops and over short distances, much akin to how we used to play. Just as before, heat will begin to dissipate as soon as the chainsaw sprint ends, meaning most of the heat generated from a short sprint will already be gone by the time your chainsaw is ready for another attack. The amount of heat generated while chainsaw sprinting, on the other hand, has been increased slightly. Though the changes above will help counteract this, longer sprints will cause your chainsaw to overheat quicker, so be careful not to let it overheat in an empty corner of the map. And be careful. Be careful, killers. Last but not least, we've toned down the Doom engravings and Death engravings add-ons. These add-ons will provide less movement speed than before and increase heat generation further. Okay. A little bounce back. The Pig. The John's Medical File add-on increases the pig's crouch movement speed. This add-on hasn't been performing well, so let's Let's buff it. So we've increased this add-on's movement speed bonus to 10%. Not sure why they did that. Maybe a joke. Two of Oni's add-ons, Blackened Toenail and Bloody Sash, allow him to move faster while absorbing blood orbs, losing less ground in the process. These add-ons weren't performing well as we'd like, so we've given them some slight improvements. They will now increase movement speed while absorbing blood by zero point 0.4, I think is it meters per second, and zero point 0.7 meters per second, respectively. The Nightmare Sheet Block and Unicorn Block add-ons inflict blindness on survivors who trigger a dream snare or dream pallet. These add-ons weren't doing so well, so we've increased the duration of blindness status effect on each of these add-ons by 30 seconds. Pyramid Head. The Executioner's Scarlet Egg add-on increases the duration of Killer's Instinct inflicted by Rites of Judgment by 1.5 seconds. This doesn't provide much value, so we've increased it to 3 seconds. The Clown. The Redhead's Pinky Finger add-on can be incredibly powerful, allowing the Clown to instantly down a survivor after hitting them directly with a bottle. We've previously toned this add-on down by reducing the maximum number of bottles the Clown can hold, but it seems like this downside was not enough to bring it in line with other ultra rare add-ons. Going forward, this add-on will reduce the maximum held bottles by 3 was 2. Bright light interactions removal. This is big too. Toolbox, just in case you faced off against a trap or a flashlight to burn the wrap when it was 1 in 3 chance. But as the killer roster has grown, these mechanics have started to feel out of place. The majority of killers do not have any interaction with survivor items, leading to the ones that do feeling unfairly punished by something beyond their control. In the past, we've removed the ability to sabotage the trapper's bear traps. To alleviate this issue, in this update, we'll be removing flashlight interactions with various killers since some of these actions aren't very well known. We'll quickly run through each of them. The Wraith. We have removed the ability to burn the Wraith out of his cloak. This would also stun him in the process. The Nurse. The nurse could also be burned while blinking. This didn't come up very often since it was very risky and difficult to pull off, but it has also been removed. The artist. Survivors could shine a flashlight at crows to scare them away. This also didn't come into play very often since the crows could easily be shooed away without using flashlight charges. The Hag. Arguably the most impactful flashlights have long been the sole counter to the Hag's phantasm traps. Not only could they reveal the aura of nearby traps, but shining a flashlight at the trap would destroy it. Removing the flashlight effect from the Hag's power is a little trickier since it would leave survivors with no option but to set off a trap and risk the hog teleporting to it. To ensure that this doesn't make the Hag too oppressive, we are adding the ability to wipe away a trap. In order to do so, survivors will need to spot the trap, crouch over it to avoid setting it off, then perform a several second long action to clear it. While this will allow all survivors to clear their traps, it will now be much more difficult and time consuming to do so. Additionally, this prevents a survivor with a flashlight from destroying the Hag's trap mid chase. The Deep Rift and Beyond. Late last year, a deeper level of the Rift was revealed, allowing players who had already reached tier 70 to go above and beyond and continue progressing to earn alternate versions of outfits. Starting with the Tools of Torment mid-chapter update, this deep rift will feature unique visuals to better differentiate the bonus deep rift tiers from the regular rift. As for tombs, you may notice a new trend emerging where the most recent chapter's lore is expanding in the following tomb. It's no coincidence this is something we'll be doing for all new original chapters moving forward. This will also expand further on the most recently introduced characters' lore in a more natural and exciting way. Licensed chapters, meanwhile, may be an exception to this. While we would love to expand upon their stories as we have done in the past with the likes of Ghostface and Bill Overbeck, licensed characters come from franchises of their own with their own stories to tell. Therefore, the tombs followed licensed chapters may feature existing original characters instead. If you've been waiting to learn more about your favorite characters from years past, don't worry, they won't be forgotten. Older characters will still be featured throughout new tomes as minor characters. With that, we've reached the end of this month's developers updates. Very interesting stuff here in this, guys. I'll put the link in the description so you can check this out yourself. This is very interesting. Definitely killer heavy, in my opinion. It's leaning towards the killer, but survivors are the most cunning of the parties associated in Dead by Daylight. So I'm excited to see the workarounds we find, the new bugs we find, and how we make this update work to our advantage. Thanks for watching. Take care.